The European Parliament has agreed to resume work on implementing the US trade agreement following a decision to unfreeze it. The agreement has been frozen after US President Donald Trump threatened to impose tariffs over Greenland's issue. However, with Trump now backing down, European lawmakers have reached a final decision to proceed with the deal. The trade agreement, signed in July, aims to remove tariffs on all industrial goods and foster closer EU-US economic ties. The European Commission is expected to quickly move forward with implementation, marking a major step in US-EU relations. I am now being joined by Matthew Verdum, who's an American journalist, joining us from Washington. Thank you so much for joining us here today on NewsX World. What political and economic factors have influenced European Parliament decision to resume work on the US-EU trade deal, and how might this shape transatlantic economic cooperation?
I think that a big obstacle was Donald Trump's recent threat to impose sanctions on various European countries for taking Denmark's side in the dispute over the, possible annexation by the United States of Greenland. But President Trump has backed down from that, and so now the European Union can go ahead and ratify the pending trade deal. I suspect that the Europeans are understandably wary of moving forward, given the mercurial nature of President Donald Trump. But they do want to strike the best deal for their industries and their people. I understand that earlier today, the European Parliament failed to reach an agreement on how to proceed, but they are going to move forward with a vote next month.
And does resuming work on the deal signal a broader shift in EU trade strategy towards deeper engagements with the United States? And what risks or benefits does that pose relative to other global partners like China recently?
Well, I think the European Union wants a healthy trade relationship with the United States, and obviously, cutting any kind of deal entails some risk, especially when you have President Trump changing his mind about tariffs every couple of days. He seems to change his position, and so when you're dealing with a trading partner like that, you have to be very careful to get everything in writing and get everything clearly spelled out. I think that, however, the EU's decision to move forward and try to ratify the existing, the pending trade deal, which has to do with, as I understand it, lobster, the food, and various industrial goods. I think that should be seen as an encouraging sign by the rest of the world to move forward and try to ratify any pending deals that it has with the trade deals that it has with the United States. So, no, it's probably a good thing, but people, as I said earlier, are always going to be wary of President Trump because he changes his mind on trade policy a lot, and people are a little bit wary of that.
Yeah. Don't go too far. Stay with us, as we will come back to you in just a moment. We have some breaking news now. Panama's President Jose Raul Molina has rejected a move by Hong Kong based in Hutchison to launch international arbitration following the cancellation of its contract to operate two key ports on the Panama Canal. The dispute comes after Panama's Supreme Court ruled last week that the contract held by CK Hutchison's subsidiary Panama Ports Company was invalid, effectively ending its long-running role in managing the ports. In response, the company confirmed it has initiated arbitration proceedings, arguing the cancellation violates its legal and commercial rights. The issue has drawn international attention after US President Donald Trump previously applied pressure on Panama to terminate the contract, warning that the United States could seek to reclaim control of the US-built waterway if Chinese-linked firms continued operating near the canal. China has accused the European Union of discriminatory practices following an investigation into Chinese wind energy giant Goldwind, calling the move unfair and politically motivated. Beijing said the probe undermines fair market competition and warned that turning trade and clean energy cooperation into a political issue could damage mutual trust. Chinese officials urged the EU to abide by international trade rules and provide a level playing field for foreign companies operating in Europe. The dispute comes at a time of growing strains between China and the European Union over market access, subsidies and industrial policy, with the energy sector emerging as a key flashpoint. Let's listen in to what China's Foreign Minister spokesman Lin Jin had to say.
我要指出的是，欧盟频繁动用单边经贸工具对中国企业采取歧视性、限制性的措施，发出的是保护主义信号，损害的是欧盟形象，影响的是中国企业赴欧投资的信心。
We are now being joined again by Matthew Vadum. Thank you so much for joining us here back again. Is the EU protecting fair competition, or is it targeting Chinese companies like Goldwind unfairly?
Whenever China, communist China, complains that it is being treated unfairly, you should always take, it may be true, but you should always take the accusation with a grain of salt. China has been doing this for a long time. China heavily subsidizes its own state-owned companies. With respect to the Goldwind, it strikes me as a he said she said situation. It depends where your perspective is going to be shaped by where you stand, and I doubt that the European Union would be raising these concerns about the Chinese company if they were unfounded. China does, according to international trade experts, play fast and loose with the rules, and if the European Union says that it's being treated, that the company is receiving unfair advantages, then there may be something to it. I'm not saying it's 100% certain that there's something to it, but I think that the accusation needs to be investigated.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Matthew, for joining us here today on NewsX World. Kremlin announces Russian President